Allan Aguirre with your incorruptible 2-minute warning. Friday mode. Bump. Friday mode. You can see the mic. Oh, I don't know why it's Friday. We're under a storm watch for snow, so I will not be able to see the western horizon this evening. It was a new moon conjunction. Last night was the new moon. What am I trying to say? Conjunction, and so tonight through Sunday, we'll be able to visibly see the new moon crescent when it decides to show up. I'm going to be under a storm, so I won't be able to see it. So please, if you're anywhere where there's a clear sky, take a look outside this evening, Saturday evening, Sunday. Find, when you see it, so you can post it, so we can all see it. When you see it, blow the shofar, yeah, that kind of thing. And it's the Sabbath tonight, so Erev Shabbat Shalom. What else? 1 Corinthians chapter. We're going to finish chapter 11, and then we're going to enter into some very contentious programming with chapters 12, 13, and 14 of 1 Corinthians, where Paul is basically saying, "Hey, McFly, you need to be prophesying and speaking in tongues. And what the heck? Why aren't you?" It's like I said, it is so. Paul is so incriminating to the. As much as Paul is the poster boy for Christianity, and he's preached more on Sunday morning at any given church USA than Jesus, as much as that's the case, they sure don't do a whole bunch of the stuff that he tells them to do. And so Paul is so incriminating. Their own poster boy is so incriminating. What he's teaching is so incriminating. Because they don't do it. They just don't do it. And they've come up with all these amazing reasons why they don't have to. I'm listening. There's a new. I did an interview last month, and it was posted today. The Rumors Are True podcast. I shared the link. Anyway, I was listening to it. I always sound so angry. It's like, why can't I just chill? Just be chill, and go, yeah. So yeah, we went into the studio and we made this right. I'm not like that. I'm just like, and I'm aggressive, and there's a reason why I sang in a punk rock band. It's because I'm so docile and so unopinionated. But it's funny because I mentioned multiple times just how ridiculous Christianity is because of what they do and do not do, say and do not say, believe and do not believe. And it's like, I hate it, but it's like, how do you wake somebody up if you don't tell them that they're asleep, right? Wake up, O sleeper, rise from the dead, that he might shine on you. Oh. It's not a case of me liking to hear myself talk. Not at all. I would love to sit back. I love sitting back and hearing you guys talk about how, God is redeeming your life and how God is in your life. And I love hearing your testimonies. I'd rather sit back and hear about the work of the Lord in your life than to sit here and say, "Hey, dumbass, snap out of it." You know what I mean? Yeah, it is that punk rock influence. I can't, it's like, I listen to it and I'm like, and I cringe. I listen to it and I cringe. Well, why do you listen to it? Because I don't remember what I said, and I want to make sure, I don't have to tell them hey, you need to delete that because but it's like, oh, I'm so aggressive. It's like, why can't? Well, this is what I used to do. This is who I was, and this is what I've been doing, and I'm not a Jeremiah. Is it more of an Ezekiel complex or something? Anyway. Well, thank you, Jane. Very kind of you. Um, okay. Anyway, we're going to enter into some crazy, more triggering content regarding speaking in tongues and prophecy. I want you to speak in tongues and prophesy, Paul says. And they're saying, no, we're not going to do that. Anyway, that's coming up. And that's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy it because I agree with Paul. I believe what Paul says. I believe the teachings of Paul. For someone that questions the Bible and questions Christianity and thinks that Christianity is a joke and a farce, I believe it. I believe what it says in the Bible. You know? But those that don't have any contention towards Christianity don't believe and do the Bible. It's such an upside down world. You know, it's a mad, 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 mad world. Up and down is up, black is white is black. Truth is lies is truth. Good is bad is good. It's the upside down world. To be first, you got to be last. All right, I'm going to stop and get on here. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, starting with verse 26. We're talking about, apparently the Corinth church was very much like Christianity today. They couldn't even take communion properly. They would eat instead of taking communion. Some would get drunk, according to what Paul says. It was unlike the interview I mentioned a minute ago, where I don't say cock-a-doodle, I actually say the other word. My apologies for that. I think I say it 3 times. I'm sorry. Apparently, it was quite the cock-a-doodle show in Corinth. And for as often as you eat this bread, he says in verse 26, and drink the cup, it's a memorial. We're memorializing the sacrifice that Messiah made on our behalf. For as often as you do this, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. Whoever, therefore, verse 27, eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner, your cross-reference is Numbers 9, 10, and 13. I wonder what that's talking about. Will be guilty concerning the body and blood of Messiah. I do not want that on me. I do not want that on me. 28, let a person examine himself then, and so eat of the bread and drink of the cup. David would examine himself. David would lie there and expose himself and go, Father, expose his heart. He would make himself vulnerable before the Lord and say, examine me, look into my innermost parts, and see if you find something that is out of alignment with your spirit, with your spirit, Father, with your nature. And then not only examine me, but then reveal that to me so that I can fix it, so that I can correct it, so that I can repent and course correct. I don't want to do this not for real. You know what I'm saying? I fear God. I want to do this for real. I want to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. So we need to examine ourselves. And we need to examine ourselves before we take communion. For anyone who eats and drinks without discerning, we just lost a whole bunch of people. Because discernment, as we've taught, is a spiritual gift. And Christians, the mainstream Christianity doesn't believe in spiritual gifts. So they don't have discernment. But it says here, for anyone who eats and drinks without discerning the body, eats and drinks judgment on himself. Yeah, I would say that's one of the things we see. I would say that's one of the things that incriminates Christianity. I would say that's one of the reasons why Christianity is so broken and so not true, is because they don't do that. Or because they can't do that, because in order to do that, they have to do all this other stuff they simply don't believe in. That is why many of you are weak and ill. And some have died. Well, everyone dies, Paul. I think he's talking about premature death. Because we are allotted a certain amount of time. We can jack that up. And we can mess that up and have premature death in our life, which is not a blessing. That would be a curse. And I know a lot of people wouldn't necessarily believe that. They would say something like, that's not true, Allan. How can we, if God says we're going to live X, how can we change that? Because if you change it and you die prematurely here, Wow, my audio is way off. If I'm supposed to live this long and I die early, then God knew that, and so God, see, they hurt themselves so in so many ways, and trying to, I don't know what it is that they're trying to do, but it's not good. Yes, there is. There is a curse, the curse of premature death. That's why it says in the Torah that if you obey the Torah, you will live your full term. Which then means if you don't follow Torah, you risk the chance of not living your full term. So that is why many of you are weak and ill, and some have died, because you don't have discernment when it comes to taking communion. How can taking communion be so, I don't know, serious that people can become weak and ill and die from not taking it correctly? Yeah, see, this is a good way to look at it too. I agree. We die early. That's less witness to the Almighty God glory into the world. Yeah, it's not a good witness or testimony when you're weak and ill and dying prematurely. Sin or being out of alignment isn't a good witness. It's not a good testimony. It's not a good witness. It makes him look bad. Remember what Moses would say? No, Father, don't do that. The Egyptians will hear of it. And they'll say, see, that you're not good enough, or you weren't strong enough for your will to be accomplished through us. The Egyptians will hear about it. Got to be careful. For anyone who eats and drinks without discerning the body eats and drinks judgment on himself. That is why many of you are weak and ill, and some have died. Verse 31. But if we judged, or another word for it, it says discerned ourselves truly, we would not be judged. Right? We wouldn't be doing something that would bring judgment on our heads. But when we are judged by the Lord, see Proverbs 3:11, we are disciplined, or when we are judged, we are being disciplined by the Lord, so that we may not be condemned along with the world. See, he's putting that action of judgment on you as a worldly thing, as an earthly thing, not a godly thing, not a heavenly thing, not a good thing, but a bad thing. It's worldly, and worldly is demonic. So then, my brothers, we're almost done. When you come together to eat, wait for or share with one another. Apparently, it was just like a free-for-all, like he describes up above. If earlier in the chapter, if anyone is hungry, let him eat at home, so that when you come together, it will not be for judgment, so that you won't do something stupid or crass and be judged. About the other things, I will give directions when I come. I don't think he ever really made it there. Okay, that's chapter 11. Oh man, are you guys ready for chapter 12? Are you guys ready to hear chapter 12 and 14? I mean, then, and then you have the love chapter in chapter 13. Are you guys ready to pick apart what Paul is talking about when it comes to speaking in tongues and prophecy, and in the New Testament instruction on it? I mean, look at, if you're a Christian, most Christians, here's the majority, the mainstream Christianity believes this. Old Testament is Old Covenant, doesn't apply to me. I'm a New Testament, I'm a New Covenant believer. I'm not a Jew. I'm a New Testament covenant believer, Gentile believer. But then, why aren't you? What Paul's about to tell us in chapter 12 is instruction on prophecy and speaking in tongues, something the majority of the mainstream Romanized Western Church does not do, doesn't believe that it's for today. So it's very convenient. If I can't speak in tongues or prophesy, I should probably come up with some reason why, and saying that, well, God doesn't do that. God only did that to begin the church, to start the church off. That's incriminating. That's a lie. You're a liar, because this letter was written 30, 40 years after the fact. The church is already spread and is already growing. This is teaching and instruction to the church on how they're supposed to go forward. Not to establish a church, not to get people saved, but what they're supposed to do after salvation. They're supposed to prophesy and speak in tongues. Anyway, see how this thing is just silly. Christianity. All right. Arev Shabbat Shalom. Stay safe out there. Look for the new moon. So we've got a Sabbath coming and a new moon coming. Thank you in advance to those of you that will be giving to Chameleon Church, that are going to be giving to this ministry, to this work, with your first fruits offerings. ChameleonChurch.com/give on how you can give, the various ways you can give. And then if you give monthly, we have a new broadcast at the end of every month. On the last Sabbath of every month, my wife and I, we do a broadcast called Prophetic Points. For those of you that support us on a monthly basis, we greatly appreciate that. Couldn't do any of this without you guys. Wouldn't want to do any of this without you guys, because I'd be talking to myself, and well, that's weird. Oh, I think I need to go shovel some more snow.
The views and opinions expressed during our broadcasts are solely those of the broadcast producers, hosts, and/or guests, etc., and are not necessarily the views or opinions of the Travelog Network, its sponsors, or affiliates.